Hello and welcome to Game Changer Live. We were created to inspire you with topics of coaching, positive mindset, neuroscience, and overcoming perfectionism. We endeavor to bring you the most authentic and unedited version of ourselves each week, which is why we go live. This is live. This is who I am. I'm going to make mistakes today. I'm going to say the wrong thing and have to correct myself. It happens every episode, and that's okay. Because being your authentic self means that you attract the people who are meant to be in your life. So our shows air live every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we bring on occasional guests about every other week. Our motto for this channel is Together We Inspire. So let's get inspired today. My name is Daniel Connor. I'm a certified professional coach. I'm a member as well as a leader in my local chapter for the International Coaching Federation, and I'm also an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner. I'm the owner of Connor's Coaching as well as the host of this show, and I am so glad to be here right now because I talk about perfection all the time. Perfection, overcoming perfection is my calling. Helping other people overcome their perfection is my calling. And perfection, it sucks the life out of you. It's all about holding yourself back, preventing yourself from having some dastardly or despicable future from happening to you that hasn't happened yet. And it's about impressing people who were never meant to be in your life in the first place. But my clients learn to overcome it. They learn to overcome it by changing from the inside out, so that instead of holding themselves back and actually preventing success that they deserve, they make progress and produce amazing results. Rather than spending all of their time pretending to be someone that they're not for those people who didn't matter in the first place, they define who they want to be, who they want to see in the mirror reflected back each day, and they wake up to feel satisfied with the person that they see. And today we're going to be talking about some of the downsides that I've seen people overcome from perfection. Um, Now, I want to put a caveat here because I'm all about solutions. One of the things that I've had to learn to hold back on is just providing the answers, right? But the biggest thing about this is that if I provided you with all of the possible solutions, you wouldn't see a whole lot of results. So I'm going to provide you with the biggest solution today. The biggest solution to all 7 of these issues that I'm going to talk about today is consciousness. Consciousness is so important with regards to overcoming any kind of issue that you want to overcome, but specifically perfection, because it's you're a complex being. You're capable of choosing a different path other than the one that your gut is telling you. But most of the time, perfectionists, these symptoms are all about just reacting to a situation or going into a kind of a rut of how you've gotten here so far. So basically, consciousness helps you override your lower instincts, the things that keep you in perfection, so that you can make a different choice. So consciousness is really the only solution, and the best way to do that is to explain the top 7 issues that you will probably see in your life if you're suffering from perfectionism. I personally believe 100% of the world suffers from perfection in some area of their life. I don't think that we're perfectionists in all areas of our lives, but that perfectionism specifically, because perfection doesn't actually exist. There's nothing on earth that's perfect. Okay? I'm sorry to tell you that. You're not perfect. But perfectionism is where you hold yourself to that perfection, even though it's not reasonable or logical. So, we're going to be looking at the top 7 issues that I see people who suffer from perfectionism um, that they experience so that they can learn to be conscious of them and overcome them. And you can too. So we're going to get started here. This is a list of the 7 issues. We're going to start, and these are in no particular order. I'll tell you what my top 2 are as we go through this, but we're going to start, and they oftentimes bleed into each other as well. But we're going to start with unrealistic expectations or standards. And this is not just for yourself, it's for yourself as well as to other people. Perfectionists oftentimes set these unreasonable, high expectations for success, not just for themselves, but also for other people. And it can be in different aspects of their lives. Some people only suffer from perfectionism when it comes to the cleanliness of their house. I smile about that because I'm one of those people. But other people suffer from perfectionism in their work life or in their leadership life or um, in school. And with these unreasonable expectations, it's really hard to delve deep into them. Um, so this one is probably the hardest to recognize, but it's not my top one that I think everyone could benefit from being more aware of. So I see this specific one with a lot of entrepreneurs that they set their standards of success way beyond their means to achieve them. And I see it in other people as well. But it doesn't make us failures when we can't meet those standards. All it does is make us miserable. It feels awful that we can't meet these high expectations or high standards that we think of as defining us or defining our success. And so, what that does is it demoralizes us and prevents us from attaining those standards because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. I'm going to be successful when I have 2 billion followers on YouTube. Well, no one else has 2 billion. Well, maybe someone does by now. I don't know. I don't really care. And comparing to other people, which is another one of these you'll hear about later, is not helpful with regards to unrealistic standards. But for a channel like this, having 2 billion subscribers, that's just insane. So if I had that high unrealistic standard, it would make me feel like not doing this episode, not doing shows in general, feeling like a failure. And that is not true. What is true is that I have high expectations of success that aren't benefiting me or benefiting anyone. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is procrastination. And you may think of highly functional, highly efficient, and effective people as being perfectionists, right? So when we say there's one of those misspeaks. So procrastination might not be the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of perfection. But oftentimes, people who are perfectionists delay tasks out of some form of fear. It's a fear of not being able to complete to those high standards that they set from number 1, or it's a failure of what other people are going to think of them or see out of them. So, for example, one of my very first clients I worked on when I started my business um, wanted to launch a business for herself, and she wanted to do an announcement on social media, and she had already written the post. In fact, it probably had been in existence for several months already. So she hadn't procrastinated the writing of this post, but she didn't want to push the button. She didn't want to push the play button or the post button or the go live button, whatever that button is. She was afraid of what other people would think of her. And oftentimes those feelings of what are other people going to think of me, those are actually projections of herself, of her own insecurities or her own feelings. So when we worked on this procrastination, we realized that nothing was actually holding us back from pushing that button. And in fact, pushing that button was the only way to actually get through to the next stage of her business. So we worked on pushing that button. Procrastination exists for perfectionists just like everyone else. In fact, the procrastination that exists for perfectionists is sometimes uh, all of these ideas or standards or expectations that they have in their mind holding them back from preventing them from moving forward. So let's keep going. I'm going to go through this list fairly succinctly because remember, this isn't about the solution to the specific problem. It's about the awareness of the problem, which happens to be the very first thing, the very first and best solution to overcoming any form of anything, really. Consciousness is so critical. All or nothing thinking is my number 3 on this list. And again, these are not in any particular order. I like to think of this as binary thinking. So this is good and evil, this is success or failure, this is right or wrong. Oftentimes perfectionists see things as black and white, and believing that anything less than perfection is failure. We see this a lot in students, right? That as a student, and you're in a class and you're doing your very best, or you're doing even better than your best because you're a perfectionist, that getting anything less than an A is somehow just as bad as getting an F using the American grading system. That if you're not getting that 100% score, you may as well have gotten a 0. So if you got a B plus on your class, and that is a feeling that you are somehow a failure or less than you were meant to be on this planet, then that is a symptom of all or nothing thinking. We also see this with business owners, that if I don't make $150,000 a month, which I don't even need that much money, I need, what, 10,000, let's say, a month to run a business. But if I don't get $150,000 a month, that somehow I am a failure, even though I only needed 10,000. Now, again, this isn't about solutions. I could easily drop into solutions here, and I'm trying to avoid that. I want to create awareness of all or nothing thinking. So really looking at your measurements of success as objective measurements of success is important. If the school says that anything above a C is a passing grade, look at the passing part of that as success. And everything on top of a C is really icing on the cake rather than an A. Now, I am not out there advocating that people look at school and try for a C instead of trying for an A. I think there's nothing wrong with doing your best. But when the results come in, holding yourself to this unreasonable expectation that you have to have a perfect result is only going to lead you to number 4. So let's get on with number 4. Number 4 is overcritical self-evaluation. This is where perfectionists constantly criticize themselves for all of the perceived imperfections that they have discovered in their life, for not meeting that black and white A plus or 0 result, or that they look back at the times that they procrastinate even and feel like failures as a result of this procrastination. You're a human being. You are capable and should be capable of mistakes and flaws, and failure is an important part of being a human being. But this overcritical self-evaluation is constantly looking back at ourselves and thinking, wishfully, that we only said something different or we only did something different, that we're filled with overcritical self evaluation of what we should have done in a situation, or that if only we had done this with a client, then they would have signed on with us. I happen to see this a lot in myself with regards to how I lived my life in high school, growing up. Um, but you can't do anything about the past. And this emotional reaction of feeling like a failure, using that black and white, all or nothing analysis of your past as uh, failure somehow makes you a bad person, is not helping you grow or change or be the person that you were meant to be. All it's doing is preventing you from trying harder in the future. It's making you feel bad about yourself so you don't even try. And uh, I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I can say about this overcritical self evaluation, but I do think that this is the most recognizable symptom in people. It's not my top one because it's not the root of the issue, but it is definitely something that keeps us down and keeps us from moving forward and being our best selves in any situation. So let's move to number 5 on this list. And this is my top one. This is the number one symptom that I see all perfectionists suffering from: fear of failure. Fear of failure is kind of the root of all of these other things. We use our overcritical self-evaluation to prove that we will fail, because look at all these other times that we have failed. And so we use it to prevent ourselves from ever risking failure again. We use it with regards to our high expectations, that we set those so that we don't have a risk of failure, but really that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, it's going to cause you to fail um, because you've set your standards so high you can't possibly achieve them. It's the reason we procrastinate. So fear of failure is the top number one numero uno issue that I see people suffering with perfectionism. And perfectionists often use this fear of failure to avoid taking new challenges or taking risks or meeting up with new opportunities in life because they fear failing so much. But here's the thing: human beings on this planet would be nowhere if not for failure. We learn to walk because we're tired of falling over. When we're kids, when we're little babies, and we're just learning to walk, we fall over. And if we let the fear of falling over prevent us from walking in the first place, or trying in the first place, we would never get to the point where we can walk. In my classroom, when I was a trainer before this, the number one deadly sin in my classroom, the thing that would make me fly off the handle, was my big pet peeve, was people not willing to make mistakes. I put in a lot of effort in creating ways to catch those mistakes before they became issues. But we need to make those mistakes in order to learn from them. There are two mechanics to learning: dopamine and cortisol. Dopamine is the success hormone, and all it does is solidify what we already know. Cortisol helps erase the things that don't work. If you don't have cortisol in your system, if you don't let yourself feel failure on the level of failing to meet a goal, you're not allowing yourself to learn. And if you're not allowing yourself to take risks in the first place, how much are you actually growing? Human beings learn from their mistakes, and fearing of failure is trying to prevent yourself from making mistakes, which means that you're preventing yourself from learning and growing and being your full potential. Not much more I can say about it. I hate seeing people fear failure, and I am more than happy to help my clients overcome that fear. and to point it out when they're not recognizing it, much to their dismay sometimes, I'm sure. Let's move on to number 6. So we've already talked about the big one, right? Fear of failure. There is a number 2 coming up. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but um, number 6 is not my highest or second highest issue, but it definitely is a niche problem that a lot of people who are ideal clients of mine face, and that is difficulty in delegating tasks. So, when there's a leader who is a perfectionist, oftentimes these leaders have gotten into their leadership role because they're really good at what they do. But by taking on the leadership role, they've expanded their responsibilities, the things that they're supposed to be doing. And they are afraid to delegate to other people because at some level they're aware that it's not fair to pass their high expectations off on other people. And they're afraid that these other people aren't going to meet their high standards. They're so busy being afraid of making a mistake that they don't have time to delegate the task and teach someone else how to do it. It's much more efficient in their minds to do it themselves. But there is a huge missed opportunity by not delegating out little tasks to other people. The first and foremost is that delegating to another person builds trust, it builds empowerment, it builds engagement, and those are all important factors of being an actual leader of people. Perfectionist leaders who don't delegate are not leaders. They're not leading. They're failing to lead on an ultimate and fundamental level. Delegation is so important for leaders these days because not only does it improve the quality of your workforce and the enjoyment that that workforce is experiencing, it also decreases the amount of stress that you face overall after a period of time. There is going to be a stressful period at the beginning when you first start delegating, when you first have to lower your expectations for someone else doing something that you're really good at. But the rewards of doing it, proven time and again that it is worth learning to delegate. So, fear of passing your work off to someone else. We also see this with students as well, right? In group projects, that there's always one person who has these really high expectations because they want that A, or they're gonna get a B, and that'd be the end of the world for them. That they want to do it all, right? Rather than delegating out tasks and supporting the team as a whole. So enough said about that one. Let's move on to the number 7, the 7th issue that perfectionists experience. And this one is in my top 2 in terms of how frequent it shows up and how devastating it is. This is like my secondary root cause. Fear of failure is absolutely the number 1 root cause. This one is the second cause, and this one is kind of perpetuating, and that is constantly comparing yourself to other people. Perfectionists frequently compare themselves to other people, often in order to make themselves feel inadequate somehow. Sometimes they do this as a way of motivating themselves to be better. That they see Sally and they see how Sally dresses and they think, I should dress more like Sally. Other times they do it to purposefully make themselves feel bad about their chances or their opportunities. And I've really been working hard on this one recently. I can tell you that there are 2 very important people out there in the world who do work in kind of a similar area that I do. That is positive mindsets, positive and emotional awareness, that kind of thing. That are that are lip service that people can recognize instantly, and that is Brene Brown and Mel Robbins. And specifically, I love Mel Robbins, the way that she talks on TikTok. I hear her saying things that I have said on my show or that I have said to clients. And she has thousands of likes on her videos on TikTok 2 or 3,000 on her. She's an internationally awarded speaker. She talks all the time, and I sometimes feel like I'm comparing myself to her to make myself feel like I'm less than I am. The thing is, Mel does, I don't know, 2 or 3 videos, it seems like a day. I don't know if that's how many she does, but that's my perception without actually measuring it. So she's of course going to have more activity on her account. People like to be entertained. She's out there in front of people. She's constantly producing content. She's also not limited to just working on perfection like I am. So of course she has this tremendous success, and that's amazing. I am not Mel. I am Daniel. And this is the path that I'm walking. This is the path that's important to me. I am not walking her path, and it would be miserable for me if I tried. Does that make me a failure? Comparing to others feeds our number 4 overcritical self-evaluation. It's often led by our number 1 unreasonable expectations, or our number, what was it, 3? Uh, yeah, number 3, all or nothing thinking. Comparing to other people is dumb because no one walks the life that you walk. You get to choose what your path is going to look like. And modeling it after someone else is not being authentic to who you are or walking the path that you were meant to walk. Again, my goal in sharing these top 7, and we'll go through the 7 here again real quick. They are unrealistic standards, procrastination, all or nothing thinking, overcritical self-evaluation, fear of failure, which is my number 1 in terms of importance, difficulty in delegating, and constant comparison. These 7 symptoms of perfection, these downsides that I see, are so common among all of the people that I work with. My goal here is that you're aware of them so that when they show up in your life, you have the opportunity to look at your life, and instead of reacting and just going with these downsides and living a miserable life, that you get to choose to act in a way that's consistent with the person that you want to see in the mirror tomorrow. If you recognize any of these symptoms, congratulations. You are in the 100% of humans that I have seen on this planet. The most important part of overcoming any of these downsides is to recognize them when they're showing up, because you do not have to act with that gut feeling. Instead, you can make conscious choice to act in a way that's consistent with who you want to be. But I know from firsthand experience that just simply looking at them and making choices is not enough for some of us. This is easier said than done. And if you want help or assistance in overcoming any of these downsides, if you recognize them in yourself and you think, I could use a little help for that, consider booking a free 30-minute consultation with me on my website. And I'll post that in the comments to this video when it's over. You can also count on, during that 30-minute consultation, we're going to identify 2 things. One is coaching the right medium for you. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are deep, underrooted traumatic events that need to be dealt with in a mental health situation first. I'm not the right person for that, but sometimes I am. And secondly, not only are we going to determine whether or not coaching is right, we're going to determine whether I'm the right coach for you, whether I'm the right fit for you, whether you like what I say or listen to me, and whether or not I like you, and whether or not I listen to you. You can count on any services that you choose to purchase from me to come with a free 100% money back guarantee for all services that you purchase. And I just want to thank you so much for being here, being part of the show, watching this video. And Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind taking just a second of your day to like this video, to let people know that this was valuable content, to comment on this video with what you've experienced around perfection, or if you want, you can also tell me what other symptoms of perfection that you've experienced in your life other than these seven, and share this with someone else. That is a great gift. So thank you so much for being part of our show today. Um, I'll see you next week. I'm planning on having a guest, but I will be doing a show regardless. So I'll see you then at 3:30 on Wednesday. That's Pacific Standard Time. I'll see you then. Bye.